What is there in our lives that we are so proud that we don't give it all to Jesus? For me, there's such a challenge to admit that I'm wrong, or to admit that I'm careless, or whatever it is, and yet Jesus wants us to give even all of that to him. On the morning of April 18, just a few weeks ago, Phil and I were leaving Denver to fly to Portland to be with our son and his wife, and we got to the car, and I thought, I don't know, something in my mind just impressed me. I needed to make sure I had my phone. And so I looked through my purse, and my phone wasn't there. And so I said to Phil, I don't know where my phone is. It's not here. And he says, well, you better find it before we leave. And we were running a little bit late to the airport. And so I went through my purse again, and it wasn't there. And I went through my suitcase twice, and it wasn't there. And I went back into the house, into the bedroom where we were staying, and I looked on the floor, I looked under the bed, I looked everywhere, and I could not find my phone. So Phil called our son Anthony, and he said, would you please set Mom's phone off? It has some kind of siren. I don't know the intricacies of that. But he said, set Mom's phone off so the siren goes off. And what it does is it sets the siren off, and then whoever picks up the phone, it takes a picture of them and sends it to him. And so our son was in a hurry. He was trying to get to work and all of that, but he set the siren off on our phone. And my friend Mary Ann is down in the bedroom still looking for the phone, and she hears the siren going off under the bed, and she finds my phone, and it takes a picture of her. So we get on our way, and we go to the airport. And as we are on the shuttle going to the airport, I think to myself, it would be better if I had my driver's license on me in my coat pocket going through security so I don't have to keep looking for it. So I stuck my driver's license in my pocket and put my wallet back in my purse and stuffed it in my bag. And we went through security, and we flew to Seattle. We changed planes in Seattle, and we flew to Portland. And we got off the airplane in Portland, and we went to Costco. And from Costco, we went to another Costco. And then we went to Whole Foods. We went to Whole Foods, and then we went home, and then we went to Olive Garden. No, I think Whole Foods was last. We went to Olive Garden, and then we went to Whole Foods. And as we are leaving Whole Foods, I look in my purse, and I notice that I don't have my wallet. Now, I don't like to admit to my husband that I've lost something. I've already lost something that morning. And I don't have a GPS tracking device on my phone. My wallet. And so, but I know, I've learned that you have to confess your sins before the judgment. So I said to my husband, I've lost my wallet, and I don't know where I've lost it. It could be any place between Denver, Seattle, Portland, Vancouver. It could be any place. I have no clue. So I spent the next hours canceling credit cards praying, canceling credit cards, canceling more credit cards in the morning, trying to think of everything I had in the wallet that I needed to take care of. I got on my computer and nobody had made any charges, which was good news. But I had my driver's license. I could get home. I had ID to fly home. But, it was such a hassle, and I'm praying, Lord, I don't know, I couldn't remember, I tried to think, when is the last time I really saw it? And the only time I could remember was when I took my driver's license out. Someone said to me fairly recently, I'm going to be praying that the Lord, impresses whoever to send it to you. And, I thought, that's nice. I pray for that too. I found something here at church once with somebody's name on it, some papers, some important papers, Medicare card, etc. I didn't know them. And 3 weeks later, I looked their name up on the internet. I actually paid Intellius to find out where they lived and what their phone number was, and called them up and gave it back to them. But I don't know. Is God interested in that? Somebody could have stolen it, could have dropped out someplace. I made all the phone calls. With God, it's no big deal. Let's take a look at our story found in 2 Kings chapter 3. A little background. Our story today is about King, is this story that we need a little bit of background to. You remember King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. Good guys or bad guys? They've been dead for about a year now. Their son Ahaziah became king, but he was wicked, like his mother Jezebel. And shortly thereafter he died, and his brother Jehoram became king because Ahaziah had no children. Now, Jehoram is also called Joram in different places in the Bible. And the Bible records this about Jehoram. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, but not like his father and mother. For he put away the sacred pillar of Baal that his father had made. Nevertheless, he persisted in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin. He did not depart from them. Remember, it was during the years of King Ahab that God had tried to get Israel's attention with a 3.5-year drought. And then the showdown on Mount Carmel, where the prophets of Baal and Asherah were killed. The reforms during those years of Elijah were continued after he was translated in the chariot of fire and by Elisha the prophet. And King Jehoram, who is reigning in Israel, made some attempts of reform by removing the sacred pillars of Baal, but he continued to worship the 2 golden idols that Jeroboam established back in 1 Kings 7. He had a half-hearted reform, but he didn't give God his full attention or heart. And King Jehoram continued with his evil ways. The apple didn't fall too far from the tree of his parents, Ahab and Jezebel. So while King Ahab was alive, there was a king of Moab called Mesha, And Mesha had regularly paid the king of Israel taxes or tribute as a vassal or subordinate kingdom. But now that Ahab is dead and the kingdom's in transition, Mesha's kind of tired of, paying this 100,000 lamb tax every year and this 1,000 ram wool tax. So he rebels and he quits paying taxes. Well, he knew he was inviting trouble, but he was confident that he could overthrow Israel and he wouldn't have to pay these taxes anymore. It was kind of expensive business. 100,000 lambs and the wool of 1,000 rams. Well, you remember the Moabites. They're the descendants of Lot, Abraham's nephew. So they're kind of related. And King Jehoram doesn't like it that a big share of his tax base is gone. And he knows that he can't defeat King Mesha by himself. His army just isn't equipped to handle it. So he sends an invite to the king of Judah, King Jehoshaphat. Now, and he sends this message. He says, "The king of Moab has rebelled against me. Will you go with me to fight against Moab?" Now, King Jehoshaphat at this time is about 51 years old. He's been reigning in Judah for about 18 years already. And he's been making some reforms in Judah. He was a God-fearing king for the most part. But King Jehoshaphat, he doesn't consult God, but he replies immediately. He says, "I will go up. I am as you are, and my people as your people, my horses as your horses." Now it's interesting to note that one of King Jehoshaphat's sons had married the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel, so they're related by marriage now. And he asks the question, which way shall we go up? Now there were two different ways that they could go and approach Moab. The closest way was to go from the north to the south to their Moab's north border and attack them directly. But those cities would be fortified, and Moab would probably be prepared for attack in that direction. The other way was to go a more circuitous route and go south to the southern edge of the Dead Sea and approach unexpectedly from that area. It was more of a wilderness type area, and the attack would be more of a surprise. So they would have that advantage. Also, if they asked the Edomites, who were descendants of Esau, that would help keep them in submission and in coalition with them and more cooperative. So King Jehoram's reply was, "Let's go down by the way of the wilderness of Edom. It's longer, but it'll be a surprise attack, and we'll probably have a greater success." So they marched for 7 days on this roundabout route. But there was a major problem. Verse 9 says, "There was no water for the army, nor for the animals that followed them." And you can't move very fast or efficiently without being hydrated, right? They had expected some springs of water along the route, but those springs were all dried up, and it looked hopeless. And King Jehoram, you can imagine, he throws up his hands in despair, and he complains against God. He says, "Alas, for the Lord has called these 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. Woe is us. We are going to die." And notice he blames God for the mess that he's created. He hasn't consulted God. He hasn't sought to worship or obey him, but the moment trouble strikes, King Jehoram is quick to blame God and point the finger. Now, King Jehoshaphat, as we said, is more in tune to God. And he says, is there no prophet of the Lord here that we may inquire of the Lord by him? Let's consult God. What a novel idea. Yes, we are in this mess. We didn't consult him in the beginning, but maybe he has a solution that we haven't thought of. And one of the servants of the king raises his hand and he says, excuse me, but I have it on good authority that Elisha the son of Shaphat is here. You know, he's the one who poured water on the hands of Elijah. Elisha, my God is salvation is here. He served the great Elijah from Mount Carmel. You could ask him. Do you know that you are a servant of the king? You are in the position to point others to the God of heaven. I know one you could seek for the answers to your questions, your challenges, your problems. And King Jehoshaphat said, the word of the Lord is with him. Yes, that's right. Elisha's a servant of the Lord, and he's the perfect person to consult. Verse 12. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom went down to him. They didn't send a message. They personally went as the kings of these kingdoms to inquire of the prophet of God. And sure enough, Elisha was where the servant of the king had said. And you can imagine the next scene. Here, these three kings in their royal robes stand in front of Elisha the prophet. Elisha looks them over. Bad king, good king, bad king. He isn't politically correct. He doesn't try to gloss over and pacify the motley crew. He looks straight into the eyes of Ahab's son, King Jehoram, and he exclaims, what have I to do with you? Go to the prophets of your father and the prophets of your mother. Go to the prophets of Baal. Go to the prophets of Asherah. You're not godly. Why are you seeking my advice? I don't speak for your gods. You can imagine King Jehoram whining, no, for the Lord has called these three kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. Your God is not big enough. Your God is not strong enough. Your God has plotted to destroy us. We are just pawns in a chessboard of fate. Your God has decreed that we are to be taken out. And you can imagine Elisha replying, quit your sniveling. As the Lord of hosts lives before whom I stand, surely were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, I would not look at you, nor see you. But now bring me a musician. Bring me Christy, let her sing for me. Listen. The only reason you are in my presence is that King Jehoshaphat is God-fearing. Otherwise, I would have no time for you at all. Do you know that those of us who choose to serve the living God, the Lord of hosts, actually makes a difference in the lives of the ungodly? By our personal influence. It's a solemn thought. And it's an interesting twist to the story. A musician is brought in so that Elisha can be attuned to the heart of God, so that he can hear his voice. Verse 15, then it happened when the musician played that the hand of the Lord came upon him. That's power-packed. The hand of the Lord came upon him. Inspiration. And he, Elisha, said, "Thus says the Lord, make this valley full of ditches. For thus says the Lord, you shall not see wind, nor shall you see rain, yet the valley shall be filled with water, so that you, your cattle, and your animals may drink." And I like this. And this is a simple matter in the eyes of the Lord. He will also deliver the Moabites into your hands. Also you shall attack every fortified city and every choice city, and shall cut down every good tree and stop up every spring of water and ruin every good piece of land with stones. You know, God's plan may seem absurd. God's plan may not make sense. You've got to have your men dig ditches. Come on, we came out to fight and you want us to dig ditches? But by the way, you will have water. There won't be wind, there won't be rain, but you, your cattle, will have plenty of water in a dry desert. And this is no big deal for God. It's just simple, trivial. God is powerful. He has 1,000 ways of providing for your needs. You just need to inquire and ask. Come to him, seek him. Are you thirsty, empty, stuck, afraid, plagued with challenges? Are you seemingly defeated, discouraged? Are you ready to give up? It's no big deal to God. Dig some ditches and wait for God's miracle in the morning. By the way, not only will God provide you with water, but he will rout your enemy. He will be eating out of your hand and fight, attack the fortified cities, every choice city. Cut down the trees, stop up the springs of water. Throw stones on their land so they'll have to work hard to clean it up in order to plant their crops. Make them work to clean up the mess. These are God's enemies. They have raided some of the towns of Israel and Judah. Now, you and I might think this is kind of harsh, right? God, really? You want us to do that to our enemies? I thought we're supposed to feed them. Maybe this will give you a different perspective. In 1868, a stela of black basalt measuring 44 by 28 by 14 inches was found containing an inscription of this very king Mesha of Moab. In this inscription, dedicated to his god Chemosh, he thanks God for victory over the Israelites. In it, Mesha states that he took Nebo from Israel. He says, "I went by night and I fought against it from the break of dawn until noon, and I took it and I smote all of them. 7,000 men, boys, women, girls, and maidservants. For I had devoted it to Ashtar Chemosh. And I took from them vessels of Yahweh and dragged them before Chemosh." Now it's interesting how this artifact verifies the biblical account of the stories of the kings of Israel. Now these three kings left, and evidently they followed the prophet's orders. For the Bible records in verse 20, Now, it happened in the morning when the grain offering was offered that suddenly water came by way of Edom, and the land was filled with water. The very first thing the next morning, the children of Israel, Judah and Edom, worshiped God by offering a grain offering. And suddenly, God sent water from a dry, desolate land. And it was filled with water. It was a miracle. No big deal for God. A simple matter. And when all the Moabites heard that the king had come up to fight against them, all who were able to bear arms and older were gathered, and they stood at the border. And they rose up early in the morning, and the sun was shining on the water. And the Moabites saw the water on the other side as red as blood. And they said, "This is blood. The kings have surely struck swords and have killed one another. Therefore, Moab to the spoil." The Moabites by this time had been informed by the spies where the army was, and as they stood at their border and looked across the valley, the reflection of the red sandstone mountains on these pools of water looked blood red, and they assumed it to be human blood, shed by fighting each other. And in their exuberance and certain victory, they came to strip the camps of all the money, valuables, clothing, livestock. You can imagine their shock when the children of Israel and Judah and Moabites rose up against them. And when they came to the camp of Israel, Israel rose up and attacked the Moabites so that they fled before them. And they entered their land, killing the Moabites. Then they destroyed the cities, and each man threw a stone on every good piece of land and filled it. And they stopped up all the springs of water, and they cut down all the good trees. But they left the stones of Kir Hareseth intact. However, the slingers surrounded it and attacked it. And when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too fierce for him, he took with him 700 men who drew swords to break through to the king of Edom, but they could not. Then he took his eldest son, and he offered him as a burnt offering upon the wall. And there was great indignation against Israel. So they departed from him and returned to their own land. What King Mesha thought was going to be easy victory, picking up the spoils, became a nightmare. Not only were they routed, but their land was made useless without much backbreaking labor. The king in his despair pleaded with the god of Chemosh by sacrificing his eldest son, the one who would be the next king. And he did it on the wall of the city where all could see. He sacrificed his own son to appease his God, but it was utterly useless against the God of heaven. So, what do we learn from the biblical account? Well, I have to tell you, this last Thursday night at midnight, I got a phone call. My name's Vitalia. I found your wallet tonight at the old spaghetti factory. You know, I had to look through it to determine whose it was. And I found your business cards, and that's where I got your phone number. There's one thing that's missing. Your driver's license is missing. I said, yeah, I know. I took it out. And I arranged for our son Anthony to get it from him. And Anthony called me this morning and told me that everything's there, my Social Security card, my 50-some dollars, everything's there. What do we learn the next time we can't see our way out, the next time we feel defeated, the next time we feel that the obstacles are greater than the possibilities? Then let's get down on our knees and pray. Let's not blame God for the messes we brought on ourselves. Don't blame him when you didn't consult him in the first place. But remember that whatever your problem or challenge, it's no big deal to God. He has more options to get you out of your difficulty than you can even imagine. God's plan may seem absurd. God's plan may not make sense. You may have to dig some ditches, get out some shovels, but it's no big deal for God. This is just a simple, trivial matter. He has 1,000 ways of providing for your needs. You just need to inquire and come to him and seek him. Are you thirsty? Empty? Stuck? Afraid? Plagued with challenges? Are you seemingly defeated? Discouraged? Are you ready to give up? It's no big deal to God. Dig some ditches and wait for God's miracle in the morning. My God is salvation. Your challenge? No big deal to God. Father in heaven, we want to thank you that for every challenge, for every problem we face, that you have possibilities and you have miracles. We just need to come to you. So help us to daily come home to you and to give all of our challenges and problems to you. Thank you.